Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ricky with Learn Plan Profit. Hope you guys are all having an amazing Money Friday, and I'm going to give it a couple seconds for everyone to start tuning in, and then we have something pretty interesting to talk about. I'm looking at the overall pattern for /SI, which then go in correlation to USLV, and kind of how those patterns are still going and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and take a step back. 180-day analysis again. Overall margin from around $9.50 to about $11. Today's going to be kind of a make it or break it. I want to see this thing break above $10 and really start showing signs of an uptrend. I don't, it's up to today if I plan on holding it over the weekend or anything like that. I don't have a huge dollar value invested in it as of right now, but I'd like to. But I need to make sure that if I'm going to go in fully invested, I need to make sure that this thing is showing signs of an uptrend pattern. There's no break of pattern or anything like that just yet, but it's just the risk of holding something over the weekend and what can happen. I want to make sure that I take that into consideration, as we should, right? So what's up? Let's go ahead and change this to the live chat. Hope you guys are all having an amazing Friday. Let's see. Good morning. Chat reminder, what's going on, guys? I like it. /GC reversal. Yes, I did see that. Did you guys catch that? So as of right now, well, there is no full-on confirmation. So /GC is trying to show signs of a reversal, but as of right now, it's still holding below 1320. And I need it to actually break above 1320 to get the full-on confirmation that /GC is going to start to recover and that's going to be in favor of JNUG. As of right now, yes, there was a pullback, right, for JNUG, but ultimately, it's still actively trending up, but how much, right? And then the same thing with DGAS. For all those that were able to capitalize on DGAS today, we saw a lot of consolidation yesterday. It has about a little bit over 29. It pulled back, and then today bounced right around the EMA and still showing signs of an uptrend pattern. I actually, just like I said yesterday, really like the pattern on DGAS and this uptrend pattern. It has these pullback confirmations and then continues this uptrend pattern. And then looking at the overall pattern for /NG, it makes sense on why it will still continue to decay, right? It pushes up, it gets rejected by the EMA, and then continues to descend. I find that to be very attractive. It's actually, in my opinion, trying to not validate the support at the SMA, and I think it's still going to try to show signs of a continuous downtrend, which is in favor of DGAS for this thing to continue to push up to about $29, $30, maybe $32. But again, we need a full-on confirmation right now. It is descending. It might bounce here. It's at a known potential bounce area with the SMA indicator, so we want to take into consideration that, hey, it might actually bounce around this area, so we have to be on high alert if we should cover profits on DGAS or if we should still hold for a potential swing trade, especially moving on over for the weekend. But I got so many direct messages this morning of people just they thanked me, but again, I didn't do anything. They thanked me for them hitting their weekly goal, or if not exceeding. I got a couple people saying that they ended up making 10 to 20% this week, one of their biggest weeks altogether. And I want to remind you guys that it's all your hard work. It's not anything that I'm doing right, because a lot of you guys aren't even trading the same stocks that I am, but it's because you guys are now starting to understand patterns much more. Again, good deals versus trying to get in when everyone else is trying to get in. Again, you're understanding the good deal part, and you're understanding the confirmation part of waiting for the confirmation. So there's one thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's when we talk about USLV, which is, but it's going to be /SI, and I'm going to do it on the 30-day, 10-minute, 30-day chart. Do you see how there was a continuous downtrend, and it was continuously getting rejected on this 10-day, 30-minute chart? Right, if I'm not mistaken, 10-day, 30-minute chart. Every time that it would try to recover, it would get rejected by this SMA indicator. There was a break of pattern, and it started to break above the SMA, and then it pulled back, and it confirmed the bounce here, and it confirmed the bounce here yesterday as well. And this is exactly what I want to see. It's bounced here before, it's validating this as a support, and it's giving me that much of a better understanding that yes, although it is pulling back, it is showing signs of a potential higher high, and it's showing signs of higher support levels and higher resistance levels as well, which is something that we want to see for USLV. right? USLV isn't as accurate, like it does break a little bit below it, and then, you know, that's the ETF itself, but it's something to take into consideration on why USLV might be taking a little bit more time to actually push up and hold above $10, because it might need a little bit more time to consolidate. So, you know, it wouldn't be such a bad idea if it came down to me having to cover profits and stuff like that. So pretty much what I'm waiting for today is for USLV actually to break and hold above $10. And if it does, great, then I might consider the idea of a potential swing trade. But if it doesn't, then I'll rather cover profits and revisit this thing on Monday, just so I don't have to go through the risk of having, you know, I think it's about $25,000 invested into something like USLV over the weekend when it's kind of like at a critical point, like not too sure about what's going on. Again, I'd much rather cover profits, feel safe, and then just revisit this on Monday, right? So all right, let's go ahead and actually, okay, so we got a call out for HTZ. Okay, so HTZ looks like it pulled back to about its support around the SMA indicator. I would watch out for the earnings. The earnings is on the 8th, and it looks like based on previous, this is Hertz, last time that, it tends to have pretty solid pullbacks when it's approaching its earnings, and then that, you know, it becomes so oversold that even if it ends up not hitting its earnings, it doesn't pull back as aggressively. I would kind of keep an eye out for this on why it still can continue to descend. I would like to follow up this one on Monday. I didn't understand your breakdown. Okay, so I think you're talking about something else because I saw someone talk about HTZ and I thought you said that, oh, it's growing ridiculously fast. And I was like, oh, no, I don't think so. FUSZ. I actually don't like this one at all. It looks like it has to do with a lot of manipulation and pumping up, or a lot of manipulation, which is not something that I like participating in. The reason why I know this is you can see the average volume here, and then what acted as a catalyst to drive the volume much higher, which acted as an overall price increase, right? So definitely I do see like intraday on why and how it is it's pushing up, right? That's definitely, I can see why you find that attractive. I just find there to be, you know, again, based on previous volume and how the volume is performing right now, take into consideration that, you know, we're closer to market open hours, so there might be some form of manipulation that's going on, as well as I don't think that this is going to hold for a very long period of time. So, you know, be careful on when to cover profits and when not to and stuff like that. So. All right. As much as you don't want to take credit, you're the teacher in this. Appreciate that. Thank you. I like that. Wow, that's so cool. Thank you, Kieran. Appreciate that. What's up? What's up? Apple is a straight beast right now. Let's check it out. And then if you guys have any callouts of something that you guys want to keep a very close eye out for, feel free to send it out. I'd love to check it out. I don't know why Apple would be such a, yeah, and you can look at this right now, like, and this is something that a lot of people feel like, oh, I missed out on and stuff like that. Like, let's say you were able to buy Apple right here before the earnings, and then you took the risk of buying before earnings because it was so oversold, it pushed up, it covered all this margin, and you covered at like around 176 based on previous patterns, like that being an ideal sell point, and then it pushes up to 183. I want you guys to understand that, like, again, it's not always exiting at the highest point, but it's exiting at a price point that you understand is a good price to sell. And yes, there is always potential for it to continue to push up, but you're at least selling at a good price point where it makes sense. Like on the technical standpoint, you can see that 176 has been a previous, like, or close to a previous peak, right? And that although if it does end up going to, like, you know, $200, that's not something that you could have predicted. That's something that, you know, some form of catalyst could have acted upon Apple, and then it drove the price up much higher than anyone could have expected. And that's what I want you guys to be comfortable with. Just understand when is it a good time to buy and why based on your technical analysis. And the same thing with selling. And once you have that, yes, I know some people are going to feel like they missed out. But again, don't waste too much time being like it's happened to me before where I tend to sell too early. But again, I take into consideration that like I'm very consistent. I feel like based on any other person that I've seen that like shares their profits, I 100% know that I'm not like the most profitable as in like the dollar return, but I feel like I'm one of the most consistent, and that's something that I'm okay with because I like bringing in and staying green as consistent as possible. And that's what I want to ask yourself. That's what I want you to ask yourself. Every time that you take a position, just make sure that you understand what it is that you're getting into when it comes down to entries and exits, and that you have a reason for every action that you take, right? We're making logical decisions on why it is that we're trading and not just based on hope. When you cover profits at like 176, then it's because you saw there was to be a previous resistance at around this price point, so it made sense on why you covered there. Yes, it shot up more, but that's not something that you could have predicted. And when it comes down to opportunity cost, you did the right thing in my eyes in covering profits, although it did still have potential for more upside, right? Because the potential for loss was also much greater as well. So just a friendly reminder. Can you give an example of how people can manipulate prices? So a lot of people ask me why I don't trade lower cap stocks anymore, especially with my following or with people, and this is with my following like through YouTube. But just think about people that have or companies that have a following or an influence in the market due to their following or their overall reach, right? People can get paid a certain dollar value to promote a series of low cap stocks, which then can act as a direct catalyst to drive prices up. That's why I try to stay away from anything that offers very low volume or that's influenced by volume. Because if I take a position, regardless of how much it is that I tell people to not take a position, I know that there will still be people that end up unfortunately taking a position. So what I've said is, when it comes down to lower cap stocks, I would rather not have to trade them live or talk about them. And if I see value in something that's like an extremely low cap stock, then that's up to me and I can trade that myself, but it's not something that I would want to promote or encourage other people to invest in because of the catalyst that I can have on the price itself, and that's not fair. So because of that, you need to take into consideration how a lot of other people can have the same influence and a lot of companies can have the same reach at a much greater rate. And there's a lot of companies that do pay for an outsourced marketing and that pay like for huge reach and stuff like that. So just something to take into consideration. Ricky, I'm coming to AZ. Take me under your wing. What's going on, Infinite? I wouldn't say Apple, that would be manipulation. I think there has to be some form of news. Give me one quick second, guys, if possible. Yeah, so that's one single reason alerts are poison, and that's why when I and I say this like very softly because I know that there's a lot of like I've been reached out by and this is me sharing it with you guys and being completely honest. I've been reached out to um, like by a series of companies to like do series of things like that, and I always deny it, right? Because it's not something that I find. I'm not gonna like discredit my name and who it is that I am for any potential on that side, right? And you just have to take into consideration of all these companies that sell alerts. A lot of those alerts can be paid alerts, meaning that people pay for you to call them out as alerts, which then can they will end up shooting up, but it's because you're manipulating the market, and that's always something that when I see any form of manipulation, I personally don't even want to be a part of it because I understand how risky it can be, not only for myself as an investor, but for the other people who are less aware of what's going on. So it's just looking out for the greater good. Very simple to understand, and it's just you can do a little bit more research on pump and dumps. And yes, they can be very profitable if you get in before everyone else, or you get in before the huge rush. But guys, it's just I find it to just to be so much more consistent to focus on patterns that I understand, and it's just worked well for me, and it works for my lifestyle now, and it accommodates like my busy schedule, and I don't have to worry about like getting lucky or getting in before everyone else. It's just simple and easy. So thank you again for asking. Oh, I see that you're okay. So let's see. Okay. Yeah, so I almost never take positions on lower cap stocks or lower volume stocks, but if I do end up taking a position on them, it's still very rare. I mean, I still have my Fidelity account that I can use from time to time, but I still try to stay away from it as much as possible. So unless like I see the opportunity to be like the technical to be extremely worth it, then maybe, but other than that, no. 100%. So, Tim, I think that's a struggle for a lot of people, discipline and patience. And it's just something that you have to work on. It's like a habit or a trait that you can, that you will develop after a long period of time. So just make sure that you're consistent about it and that you don't give up. Even if you continue to mess up, just understand that sometimes it takes up to, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks to completely adapt to a new habit. So that's something to take into consideration if that's learning how to save money, if that's learning how to cut losses quick, if that's learning how to wait for the confirmation. Just understand that it's going to take time. Yeah, I did see that. So USLV looks like it's pushing up, and I really like the pattern here. I'm going to keep a very close eye out for the potential reversal right around the 996 to 998. And yeah, it's something that I want to take into consideration for a potential push up. I have my alert set up here to see if it ends up getting rejected or if it continues to push up. So something that I'll follow up with. Let me actually set my alerts. All right. I'm going to start doing just a couple breakdowns for you guys for about the next 10 minutes, and then we'll call it a happy Friday. How does that sound? Do we have the thumbs up? I can go through these pretty quick, I think. So ticker symbol IO being called out again. So on the 180-day chart, had that nice little pullback confirmation. We talked about this one after its earnings. It's doing some consolidation here. Just know that last time that it had a pretty decent sell-off and it got close to the SMA, it did take some time for it to fully consolidate. The EMA line ended up catching up with it. It built this like kind of like what is it, bear flag pattern, and then it broke above the EMA, and then it started actively trending up. So just something to take into consideration on why it might be important to be a little patient when it comes down to the overall pattern for ticker symbol IO. So a great call out. I definitely do see value in it, but maybe just set your alerts so we could follow up with it when it's a little bit more, actively trending up. If you want to take a position right now, go for it. But just know that you are getting in before the confirmation, and there is a risk that you are taking because of that. So glob. I like how we try to pronounce these as like complete words. But yeah, so GLOB, showing signs of a reversal pattern. Watch out for the earnings. That's something that I would look out for. Again, based on previous supports, it was the SMA indicator. Now it's looking as a potential new resistance. I already did my technical analysis on this one before. I have my alert set out to break above 48. The reason why is if we want this to continue to actively trend up just like it's done before, that's when it was above the SMA indicator. Right now it's below the SMA. So right now I do see the margin from the EMA to the SMA as a potential margin of profit, but I can't take into consideration that there's going to be this margin of profit, pushing up from that. So, yeah, I think there's someone at my door. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Housekeeping, there we go. Let's see. All right. Do you ever follow SPY in the direct pattern and the influence of any of these patterns watching? Nope. Let's see. That's not really something that I take too much into consideration. Let's see. Yeah, so we did end up breaking ticker symbol NEWA. So NEWA. Oh shoot. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. There's someone at my door real quick. Yeah, so we're actually live with the Learn, Play, and Profit group. So I went in live like a little late today, but yeah, they're just hearing me, and we're just doing a couple technical analysis. So this is kind of how the morning usually goes. Give me 1 quick second. So what's going on, guys? I don't know if you guys can see. Let's see. I'll open it up just a little bit. We got Tanner here. If you guys follow like any of the GTR pages, what's the 2 GTR pages that you own?
Nissan GTR Lovers, and my buddy's got GTR Heaven.
GTR Heaven. I like it. Nice, nice. Let's see. Because we heard the bell and they're like housekeeping. So I just sold USLV. That's actually not a bad idea. So USLV was one of the stocks that we were talking about trading. It's one that I currently have an active position. I covered most of my profits. This was 2 days ago, not yesterday, but the day before. Right now I'm up $350 so far in my overall open position. But the reason that I'm still holding is because if you look at the horizontal pattern, like just how it usually trades, being able to identify like the low points and then the high points, you can see that it still has the margin from like about $10 to $11 to complete. The only thing is that it's struggling kind of to continue to push up, so showing signs of an uptrend pattern. So it makes sense on why people are kind of becoming skeptical and covering profits now. So we're able to capitalize on this margin, but now we're waiting to capitalize on this margin, but we need to wait for a confirmation of this thing to actually, like right now, what we focus on most is letting the patterns do the talking and letting it show us like, hey, like when something is actively trending up, it continues to make higher highs and stuff like that, right? When it pulls back, it makes lower highs. But as of right now, it's just consolidating for 1 or 2 days, which is something that it doesn't do as often. So that's why people are taking into consideration is as it's approaching $10, which is like a very like a refined price point, why they are planning to sell at around that price point, because again, it's not continuing to make higher highs. So if I see this thing to get, like right now, it went to overall highs, so it's called pre-market highs. So the market is open from a certain time, right? And it ended up pushing up to about like $9.96, and it ended up getting rejected. It's pushing up, and then it looks like it might be getting rejected at the same price point. So if I see this pull back and then break below the EMA, I'll probably just cover profits because there's a like second rejection, right, at the same price point, which is showing signs of a reversal. I could always get back in, but again, I'm taking into consideration that it's potentially getting rejected here. So what I want to see for their, like just like it did last time, is how did I know when it was actively trending down? It's when it breaks below the EMA. So I want these candles to continue to hold above the EMA to show signs of an uptrend pattern. But if I get the confirmation that it breaks below, then I'll just cover profits. So I'm going to do a couple more breakdowns on some stocks that they see value in. So I usually dedicate about 15 to 20 minutes for stocks that I see value in. And then I break down stocks that they see value in. So it looks like the pattern is actually in our favor as of now. But yeah. So your EMA is set at 180. Why does it look so different than mine? Yeah, so the EMA line that I have set up on mine is a length at 15. So that's my EMA line, the moving average exponential. My SMA line is set at a length of 180. Again, if you are part of, so I need you to watch the entire course because there's a step-by-step video on how to set up your TOS that is all explained in the course. And again, that is a requirement for everyone that tunes into the live streams and that begins to trade. So FEYE. Let's see, FEYE, it does show signs of a pretty consistent uptrend pattern, but if you see right now, especially after its earnings, it had a pretty solid sell-off. As of right now, it's still an active downtrending stock. Although it is having a green day today and it is trying to build a support right around 615, like 1650, it makes sense on why it would start to reverse. But again, right now, if you're getting in right now, you're getting in before the confirmation. So that's okay as long as you're willing to take on that risk. So what I would say is for a little bit more of a confirmation, I would set my alerts for the break above 1750, which would that would be when it's above the EMA, and then we can get that much of a better understanding that it would be back on its way to make higher highs and continue this uptrend pattern. So just something to take into consideration. You're about to go over NUA. Okay, sorry about that. So when it comes down to this overall pattern that we see here, I think we talked about this one yesterday. I had this pullback confirmation. Again, we got the break above the EMA and it's starting to actively trend up. There is no signs of a reversal just yet, and you can keep a pretty close eye on the MACD indicator on when it becomes a little bit, when the momentum of it pushing up starts to decay and not to push up as aggressively. But I would watch out for the previous resistance that, let's see. Actually, I don't know if this one was one that was broken down live or one that I broke down through a direct message from one of our traders. But you can see that there was a previous resistance right around $16. It surpassed that. A next potential resistance is at around 18, and the next one at around 20. So I would take those margins and those levels into consideration as it's actively pushing up, and to get a better understanding of when it's a good time to buy and when it's a good time to sell. Also, if you're looking for a pullback confirmation, when it comes down to something like NUA, just because I can see that it probably has kind of low volume, this one doesn't look like it actually has too many pullback confirmations, at least not in the very beginning. So that's something that, with this one, you're probably going to have to, for an entry, you'll probably have to look for like higher highs and stuff like that. It looks like it's actually dropping quite a bit and yeah, it's pretty volatile right now. And it looks like it's hitting the peak at around $17, which I don't find very attractive, especially not intraday. So I wouldn't say that they respond directly, but there's a correlation between like the silver and gold futures, all right? So that is something that we can take into consideration. Guys, when you guys are calling out, yeah, the length of how I have my moving average exponential, just make sure that it's the same filter, because there's a thing called EMA and there's the moving average exponential. Make sure that you have the right indicator on, because I have not changed it. I changed the length from time to time for maybe around 15 to 20, but that's about it. And also, you need to take into consideration the time frame that I'm in. Sometimes I'm in the 180-day time frame or the 1 day, 1 minute time frame, and it's dependent on the size of the candles, right? That correlate over to how the overall indicators react. So what was that? What is a dollar symbol of? I don't know. Oh, I think that means like it's a super chat. So if you wanted to like pay like $1 or something, you pay like a certain dollar value and you send out a message, it like highlights your thing. So some people do it from time to time, but you guys 100% don't do it. You guys are part of LPP. So USLV just saw this pullback confirmation. Do you see how it's showing signs of a potential reversal now? So this is a signal that I can take into consideration on why I might want to cover profits and stuff like that. So I can look at my, it's still pretty early within the day. So we'll see if it pushes up above this price point again, and then we can follow up with it. Let me do a couple more breakdowns, and then we should be good. So we got ANET. So ANET looks like it's had its earnings, had a pretty solid pullback. Again, solid downtrend pattern, getting rejected by the SMA indicator, making lower lows. That's not something that I find very attractive. Again, if you want to try to trade something like this that's decaying, there's a risk with that. It continues to get rejected by the SMA indicator. There's a risk with that. And also, I would wait for more of a solid reversal. You can look at the MACD indicator for a reversal like this on when it would start to actually trend back up. So something you might want to take into consideration. All right, ticker symbol X. Ticker symbol X is at the support at around $32. But as of right now, again, it has that margin from around $32 to $38. It's showing signs of a potential reversal pattern. It's too early to tell as of right now if it's actually going to start actively trading up. I mean, you can take a position right now, but if it starts to break below $32 again, then that's a complete break of pattern, and that's when I would consider cutting losses. So again, that's something that you would have to consider as it's actively, or if you're getting in before the overall confirmation or getting in very early. So, but I kind of like the pattern. So the range from around $32 to $38, and the margin of profit should be about 20%, so 17.75%. So not bad in that perspective. You seem tired. It takes, yeah, I think I'm on 2.5 hours of sleep. Yeah, I fell asleep at 4 o'clock last night. So, but I'm pumped. Let's see. No worries. Yeah, thank you again for checking in. I mean, I'm always here. If you need to direct message me or you want to look at the settings for my charts, just feel free to let me know. All right, so we just broke down ANA. Okay, so AMAT is showing signs of a potential reversal right around $50. And it has its earnings coming up as well. So you can see that little earnings report here. It has earnings coming up on the 17th. So we still have actually quite some time on that. And it has the potential. Do you guys see like what pattern from support and resistance do you guys think that I would try to capitalize on? Do you see this SMA indicator? I would view this as a potential resistance and this as an overall support. So it's starting to show signs of an uptrend pattern. I would wait for more of a confirmation of it making higher highs and breaking resistance levels. So I would set my alert for the break above $52, and then the margin from 52 to about the SMA indicator offers about 6% potential for profit. And that's something that I find pretty attractive. So as long as it starts to recover, then this is something that we can revisit, and it's the volume isn't bad. It's starting to show more signs of an uptrend pattern, and hopefully there will be a break of pattern and start to actually start trending up. So something we can definitely take into consideration. SQ performing well. This is actually one that I want to talk about. Ticker symbol F. This is for Ford. Ford showing signs of an uptrend pattern, upward staircase pattern. Again, the resistance right around 1150, building a support right around the SMA indicator, and it's now starting to show signs of an uptrend pattern breaking above the EMA. Margin is not huge, right? But it's a very consistent pattern. So for those that are looking like 2 to maybe 3% growth on a weekly basis, then this is something that I think that you might want to break down and see if it is something that you see value in it yourself. You can see that it's a pretty consistent pattern, validating the SMA as a support based on previous patterns, and then overall resistance as of right now at around 1150. So I think that's a pretty solid pattern in that perspective. And it's not even about they try to contact like TechBot Solutions, and I mean the companies themselves don't end up reaching out to individuals. They reach out to like marketing agencies, and then those marketing agencies try to set those like connections up and stuff like that. So yes. So no, when I say the 180-day EMA, I mean the charts that I'm talking about. So I mean like the 180-day 4-hour charts, but the length of my EMA has always been around 15 to 25. All right, let's do about 2 more breakdowns, and then we should be good. So MZOR, let's check it out. So MZOR is still showing signs of a continuous downward pattern. Do you see like why I wouldn't find this to be too attractive? It looks like it's trying to show signs of a potential reversal right here and building a support right around like 53, maybe $52. But look, it's done this before. It's broken above the EMA and then it still gets rejected. And that's why these pullback confirmations are so important. As in like, right now, we're getting this specific ticker to be at a closer to a support level, right around $50. I think that it might still have margin to potentially still continue to decay, and then the reverse end up happening down here. So right now, it's still showing signs of a downward pattern. I would not only wait for a break above the EMA, but also for this thing to make higher highs or for this thing to start breaking resistance levels. So I'm going to set the alert at the break above 55, and I'm also going to set the alert if it ends up breaking below 51, so I could get a better entry around $50 where I think it might actually bounce. So yeah, there we go. DRN, let's actually go ahead and do that one. So DRN is actually one that we're following up with. It's been doing a very good job, something that it hasn't been able to do before, to actually hold at around $18. If you can see, based on previous patterns, it definitely does look overextended with the RSI indicator, and it hasn't been progressively pushing up as aggressive as it has before, but you can see that based on previous patterns, it had this margin from around $15 to about $17. And it did this for such a long period of time. The ticker, the inverse of DRN is DRV, and that itself is now starting to show signs of a downward pattern. So I just got an alert that TER broke above $35. So we could see now that DRV, the inverse of it, is now making lower lows, which then is in correlation over to DRN now making higher highs, and its lows, these pullbacks that it has, are higher than it was before, and that's very attractive for something to want to potentially end up recovering to that $20 price point, right? So something we can take into consideration. This is a pretty low volume ETF. So if you don't like something that doesn't move very aggressively, then this probably isn't going to be the stock or ETF for you. But it's something that you can break down, see if it is something that you feel comfortable with, and then kind of make your decision based off of that. And just like we said and talked about DGAS of being able to hit 29 to about $30, there it goes. We call this one out when it was at around the $26 price point. It's pushed up, and based on previous patterns, it would make sense on why this would peak out at around $30 to $31. We like to be pretty conservative, so I would cover profits at around 30. But all we look at is like low points, high points that are offer horizontal patterns, and we don't try to buy again at the very low point. We wait for it to confirm that this is an actual support again. So again, like, who's to say that just because it's bounced here before that it has to bounce here again, right? Like, it doesn't have to. What we look for is try to look for good buy areas, and then we wait for the confirmation and the break above the EMA for it to actually start actively trending up. So I know the EMA and all that stuff doesn't really matter to you, but the easiest way to put it is once we see that it's at a low point, and what we try to look for is an indication of it starting to make higher highs. So when something starts to actively trend up, it starts to upward staircase, and it makes sense on why then it would start to recover, and then you can capitalize from that margin, which in total was about 15%, but in reality, if you wait for the confirmation, it's about 10%. So it's at around $29. Last time it got rejected right around $29.90, and I think that this time, because it's actually getting rejected by, this is the natural gas future, so when DGAS goes up, then this thing goes down. You could see that it's breaking its support here, and it's still showing signs of a downward pattern, which then, I think that it can break down to around 265, which then would mean that DGAS can break to about $31 to about 30. So that's pretty exciting for those that are currently invested in it, but also market's not open over the weekend, but the future markets are. So there's a risk if you end up holding over the weekend and stuff like that. So I'll talk to you about that a little bit later, but yeah. So TER, it's not one that I called out necessarily. It's one that was brought to my attention. But you could see that there's a reversal pattern. There was a reversal pattern happening right around $34. And I set my alerts for that, and that's why I talked about it, of it breaking above $35. This is still, again, very early to tell. It's more of like this cup and handle pattern that can form because it's pushed off so aggressively that it would make sense on why it can start to recover. But also a risk that you're taking on is if it pushes up and then continues to get rejected and then it continues to decay. So I don't know anything about TER. I would dedicate a little bit more time to do some more technical analysis on it and to see what would be more of a prominent indicator to look at to get a full confirmation that it's actively trading up. But right now, I still think it's a little bit too early to tell, and I think this is one that we could follow up with on Monday and see if it's something that's worth swing trading. If you see a lot of value in the pattern, then it would make sense on maybe why you can take a small position to potentially swing trade it, which means holding it for a number of days. But as of right now, I still think it's too early to tell for a full-on confirmation, as it's broken above the EMA before and then it still gets rejected. So that's just something that you want to take into consideration. But
would you set your alert around 40?
On 40, yeah, I mean, because there's a common support level at around that price point, but if you end up waiting until 40, and then there's the SMA line, this green line, used to act as a previous support, which means that it would act as a new resistance. This margin of profit becomes like a lot smaller. So if I were to want to take a position for a potential swing trade, I would just make sure that the dollar value that I have invested is small or not as big. And then as it continues to confirm the uptrend pattern, I'll be adding more to my position, confirming that I'm investing in something that's actively trending up. But yeah, that's a good one. So USLV below the EMA, yeah, I did see that. So USLV, if we go on the 1 day, 1 minute chart, it is trending now below the EMA. It's going to probably try to bounce at around the SMA and try to see a reversal of pattern there. It has a pretty solid support or like critical point at around like 990 and 989. It's done a lot of consolidation at around that price point, but oh no. Although he says my name wrong. Oh, well. How do you pronounce your name? I always call her Rach. Is it Roche? Yeah, I also have noticed that, Muhammad. I'm watching /SI to bounce off the VWAP, so you're going more based off of the future. That makes sense. I find that USLV studies don't react well, 100%, and that's actually a very good indication that you're able to. That's really good that you're able to notice that some stocks don't react so well to certain indicators, and I think USLV definitely does fall under that category. Shay. Is it Roche? But with a C. What? I'm confused.
I think it's Roche.
Yeah. But that is it for today, team. We went through the series of breakdowns, and I think I'm pretty excited for next week. The reason why is I think that JNUG has a lot of upside potential if it confirms that reversal pattern, or if it fully gets rejected, then we can take into consideration that JDST has a pretty solid margin to capitalize on as well. And if we do a 20-day analysis, then based on the reversal pattern and the margin that it has to cover, it's over 10%. Same thing with DGAS. If DGAS continues to push up this aggressively, then that means that UGAS is that much more closer to its support, which that means that we could capitalize on that reversal pattern. So looking at UGAS and then all the margin that it's able to recover here is also over 10% if we properly wait for the reversal and the break of pattern. USLV, again, I'm going to follow up with this one throughout the day and letting you guys know. If you guys have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to direct message me. Oh, that's funny. But that's pretty much it. So thank you guys again so much for your time. I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your Friday. And if there's anything that I can do to, if you guys are just getting started in the course, I would encourage you to dedicate maybe like 30 minutes to an hour a day. Again, don't overwhelm yourself. Take the course like gradually, and then after you learn something, make sure that you test it out and you make sure that it sticks, right? The course is about 7 hours, so I would split it up into like 30 to 1 hour increments, and then every time that you learn something new, write it down and then test it out to make sure that you don't forget it. I'm here to be used as like a resource, or anytime that you guys have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to direct message me. I'll be caught up in all my direct messages by around 12 p.m. So give me about, 4 hours. So that is pretty much it. I hope you guys have a solid Friday. Have a great Friday. Ever since I joined LPP, been up 8% in the last month. Wow, I like that. I love this community. Thank you again. I really do appreciate that. I'm in Vietnam right now, and I'm trading LPP travel, and I like that, Charles. You crack me up. You have to send the group some pictures in our group chat. Okay, Brandon, send me a direct message, and I'll work on that a little bit more, and I'll share it with the new members if there's some misunderstanding with my indicators. I 100% do. The only thing that aren't set as default are my EMA and my moving average, SMA. What's your green study line? That's simple moving average, SMA. There's actually a video under charts and studies for the Learn Plan Profit course in the course itself. I like that. Get some rest, bro. All right, sounds good, guys. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Hope you guys all have an amazing rest of your Friday. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.